we started this. So quite excited about it. And yeah, and I think hopefully we want to make sure that everybody gets as much insight, and the presentation and the session is going to be very informative. And the idea is that you can take pieces of what we share today back into your work, into your marketing life, and obviously enable you to be a well-rounded marketer and informed with things that are happening. In terms of Munya's details, so just to share, so I've just shared the screen there. So there's Munya, his LinkedIn profile. So check him out and then send him an invite. And just for today only, he will accept every invite that comes through.
Yep. One day offer, you know, one day only offer.
It's the 1 day offer. So that's the LinkedIn. And then also for everyone on the call, please drop your LinkedIn handles on the chat function. So please just write your LinkedIn name and surname, and then everybody can get it there and follow everyone. Okay, so just send to everyone. Actually, you can put it on the Q&A button, just to put your LinkedIn details, and then we'll all follow you. All right, cool. And then just to get started, just a bit of background, Munya, before we get into the session. And obviously you've got a lot of info that you want to share with us.
Yeah.
I see Tato Tato Mushidi has shared his LinkedIn details there.
Awesome.
Awesome. So that's cool. So the one thing I always like to ask whenever we've got somebody here at Marketing Fridays is that, how did you become one of us? So how did you get into marketing, and how did you become one of us?
Accidentally, on purpose, I always say. So,
okay.
so actually, for me, my background is software engineering. So I started off as a software engineer, but I'd always been passionate about business and business value. So as luck would have it, a couple of years ago, I then started working for an advertising agency. I actually worked for FC. So I was working in the digital division there as a software engineer. So building applications and the usual stuff. And my love just, the bug bit me, man. And that's how it happened. So that's how I actually got into advertising. I loved it. I loved the work. I loved the creativity. I loved the vibe. I just loved everything about the culture around marketing, and business value that it drove, how it actually, what it actually did for businesses. So that's how I got in, man.
Yeah. And then tell me, so a lot of people, when they hear marketing analytics and getting into today's session, right? So we had a conversation around it, is that there's a lot of perceptions around it. I mean, so for you, it's what is it about the industry and the word in terms of how people interpret it and what you see on a daily basis?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, it's the white elephant, like it's elephant in the room, as it were. It's scary for a lot of people, I must say, because the moment people hear marketing analytics and measurement, they automatically start to think about data, crunching numbers, models, algorithms, all these fancy words that people throw around every single day. You know what I mean? Just so that they can scare people in conversations or at a braai. But essentially, what marketing analytics is about is just value. It's driving value. It's not just about number crunching. It's a practice. It's a way of thinking. It is a method, and reporting and crunching numbers is a byproduct of whatever work you've actually put in. So if you think about marketing analytics as a practice, as, think of it as the plumbing that you put in place, everything else, that then allows you to do all that fancy stuff that, you see being thrown around these days, especially in the world of digital. So that's how you should kind of think of marketing analytics. The crunching numbers, it happens as a byproduct of all the other work you do in the background. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then before we start, so obviously you've got your deck and you'll be sharing it now. So before we start, so just out of interest, when a person gets employed by Standard Bank, do they also check your bank account to see if you've had like responsible behavior before they
No,
say
no.
yes or no?
Since this is being recorded, I'm just joking. No, not really. I mean, it's more about the individual. So Standard Bank
Yeah.
as an organization, it's about the individual, your values as a person. And I'm not punning Standard Bank, you know, as to in a way that, in a crazy way, but all I'm saying is that it's about the culture, it's about the people. We don't really check that type of stuff. As long as you fit into the culture, it's all good, man.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so Munya, we're looking forward to it. There's a lot of people who are interested to hear what you have to say this morning.
Awesome.
So we can just share your screen and then take it away.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. I'll just share my screen.
Okay, cool. And then hello to everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live. We see you. We see you.
Awesome.
So hello.
Yeah.
Say hello to everyone at home.
So, okay, just shout when you can see my screen.
Got it. I see it.
Okay, cool. So, as Nico mentioned, my name is Munya. And I try to make this slide, this session or this presentation as short as possible. There's just a little over 10 slides, including this one. But essentially, it's just to outline the method and the thinking. In my starting notes, I did mention that it's a practice. You think of marketing as a practice. It's not just crunching numbers. So, I mean, one liner that I could come up with in terms of what marketing analytics as a practice is, it aims to drive business value through the provisioning, democratization, and operationalization of digital analytics. And I've kind of skewed this presentation towards digital because that is where the world is going. I mean, if anything, the recent events in the world, such as COVID, have kind of made brands and organizations sort of move or shift or accelerate their digital strategies. So as you can see here, there is very little about crunching numbers when it comes to analytics, because there's a lot of other things that happen in the process that enable you to be able to extract the value from your analytics. So the first thing that you kind of have to do with analytics and is basically set up a roadmap. You kind of have to understand where your organization is in terms of maturity in using data to drive operational and strategic decisions. So this is pretty much the...
Hold on. So there's someone who's saying they can't see your screen. It's blank. I just want to check
really?
If...
Can you see mine?
So I can see it.
Is there anyone else?
So let's just check with everyone if they can see. Everybody, okay? Everyone says all good. Okay, let's continue. All good, all good.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, cool. No worries. So essentially what you have to kind of think of is what you have to have in place before you even start thinking about crunching numbers is basically you should have a maturity roadmap. So I'll just touch on the 5 steps of the maturity roadmap. So the initial one, which is quite critical, this is your plumbing, is the setup. So set up the technologies, your operating models, so meaning how you're going to operate, the people, there's processes, there's things that you have to kind of think about. So set up the technologies. Yeah. So there's a bit of an echo. Yeah. So set up the technologies, the people, set up your segmentation strategies. That is when you've done an honest and as-is analysis of your landscape. And then the next step will be your test and learn. So essentially everything you set up in the previous stage, you need to be able to test and learn. So test the various principles that you've kind of defined in your operating models on strategic projects, obviously leveraging the behavioral insights, the triggers and the insights that are generated from the process to kind of start to understand your consumer, start to understand your products, start to understand your own business. The next thing is the operationalization of analytics, in which case now you start doing the cool stuff, the stuff that you're hearing about now. The challenge with most organizations is they want to start here because this is where the world kind of is now. You know, you're hearing about machine learning, AI, bots, chatbots, but they forget that there's a whole process before that you kind of have to think about and be very deliberate in mapping out before you even get to this stage. So this is where you get to the operationalization phase, you know, where you're kind of jogging, you understand, you're leveraging your analytics, you're leveraging your data, your data sources are integrated. And then you move into automation. This is now, you know, the marketer's nirvana. This is the marketer's happy place, you know, where you got end-to-end automation. Emails are linked to this, you know, you can actually, sorry, just turn that off. You can just start to do really, really cool stuff with your marketing. And then the golden realm now is basically your cognitive computing. So cognitive computing means you have computers or you have algorithms or you have systems that can make business decisions based on all the learning that has happened throughout the 4 other steps. So this is now where you get to where, you know, you've got business insights and a whole bunch of things that are actually happening. So that's the roadmap in a nutshell. And the next thing, I thought I would focus a bit on the setup, right? So the setup part of things is very, very critical. This is your plumbing. Think of it in this way. If you don't, you can have the most beautiful taps in your house, but if your pipes are not running through your house, there's no water that's going to come through. So essentially, this is the plumbing that you need to put in place in order for you to be able to track everything, in order for you to be able to drive the value that you're looking at. So I'll just run quickly through the steps and then basically talk through each step. So the top part is where you're doing your, where you're setting up your standards. You're coming up with your tech design, like you're choosing your technologies, understanding your own business, doing an as-is analysis of your business. Your data layers pretty much defines what data points about your customers that you want to be able to track and measure and capture in various capacities. And then you've got guides. You need guides because from a business continuity perspective, you need to be able to document the entire process so that, you know, other people, when they get onboarded, they understand what your strategy from a tagging or analytics perspective is. And you want to also you need a tool that will allow you to track the various channels. So by channels, we're in marketing, we know what it means. It can be email, it can be paid media, it can be social. You need to be able to track all these things. So you need some sort of tool that enables you to be able to do that. So the phase 1 deliverables, the guides and standards, is pretty much the output of this phase. And then you then go into your actual implementation project. So this is where, depending on how your organization is structured, you would need to then engage with either the IT teams or the technical teams, or if you have an IT department. But basically, this is where you do your implementation. So this is where you start tracking your marketing channels. I try to keep this tool agnostic. So this is a method, as opposed to me prescribing a certain tool that you then use, but it's just a way of thinking. So you need to be able to track the various channels. As you can see here, you've got email, search, social, VDN, CRM, whatever traffic. And then you need some sort of platform, right, where you would be able to then start to track behavioral tracking. So in a simplified manner, this can be a website, it can be an app, it can be a voice computer, it can pretty much be anything. You can track anything in this day and age. I mean, with all this digitization, you can even track things like call center calls, you know, with using different types of technologies. Anyway, the idea is that whatever channel it lands in, you should be able to then track every interaction within that channel, right? So then the output of that is, obviously, you will then be able to then report on the activities that people are doing but as marketing, or as digital marketing, you do not exist in a vacuum, right? You actually work with, you use other sources of data as well. So for instance, things like TV, radio type of data. So your strategy should be able to define, should enable you to connect what's happening in your digital space to what's happening offline. So you need to be able to have to link these two worlds together, just so that you've got a full view of how your marketing is performing. Post that, the output from this phase will then be the deliverables of an integrated data set, right? Which allows you to start doing a whole bunch of things, right? You can start, doing your analysis, setting up reports and dashboards and. But there's a key thing here that most organizations don't understand, especially marketing, is that you need to take your stakeholders on a journey with you. So part of it is obviously you need to do trainings to let people understand data, because not everybody is a data native, right? So training is a critical part of this that allows you then to say, okay, cool, a business person can look at 300, like as a number as maybe visits on a website. It may mean something different to a marketer, and it may mean something different to a business person. So merging those two worlds then gives you the opportunity to look at the data from different prisms, right? Different angles, so you can extract the maximum amount of value. The last part now is where this personalized and automation and all that other stuff does. And this is where your audience strategies kind of kick into gear, whereby you understand your audience based on all the things that they've been doing here. You understand your data. You can start doing really centralized or user-centric communication that then allows you to unlock the value of at an organization level. I spent a bit more time on this because this is quite critical in understanding to say marketing is not just here, or analytics, is not just here, and then marketing just can't just exist in this world without all this other work being done prior. Cool. And what you want to do from a marketing, once you've got this kind of setup, your strategy, obviously, as I'm saying, I'm not prescribing anything. I'm basically saying your idea, depending on, regardless of what organization you're in, right? You want to have a customer for life strategy. So once you bag your customer, you want to be able to ensure that you keep them in your ecosystem. That's what it is, right? So customer for life strategy in a very linear, simplified manner. Let's say it's in the banking space, for instance. It could be, you want to be able to understand what life stage your customers are at. So if you apply the same exact scenario to a retail business, the stages might be different. It might be buying cycles, it might be whatever, but the idea is that you need to be able to be on the pulse in terms of what your customers are doing. So in a scenario, you want to be at every life stage that they're at, you want to be able to speak to them. You want to be able to engage with them in a contextually relevant manner that allows you to unlock the most value, and not just for the business, but for the customer as well. Because in today's age, customer is king, and customer is at the center of everything that we do. So you want to be able to understand and fully understand where they are in terms of their life, so that you can activate the right type of engagements, the right type of communication. However, this strategy cannot just exist on its own, right? It needs to be supported by some practical things that you need to do within your business that allow you to unlock this type of value. So these are the key dependencies in order for you to unlock your customer for life strategy and get the most value out of it. First of all, you should have your data. So the plumbing and the setup that we did, your data should be there, right? The second thing is you need to understand strategically what are the key things that you need to be able to do, and what are the key things you're focusing on in your strategy that you need to focus on. And then to do that, you need a decision matrix, right? Some sort of decision matrix that allows you to then prioritize strategic activities and. This, having it as a centralized thing, allows you then to start making decisions across your organization, right? You're not just making it from a marketing perspective, you're focusing and you're mapping things to strategy, right? And then you then need, as I said, you need synergies with your IT teams and. You need some sort of back office integration, because marketing can't just exist in a fluffy world where we show pretty pictures, right? You need to be able to action things at a business level so that you can drive the value that you're actually trying to drive. Cool. So the methodology is quite simple. well, this is oversimplified methodology, but essentially you want to be able to analyze and understand your customer's behavior relative to the business objectives, right? And then you want to be able to then connect or combine the information that you're gathering within your marketing space with other information from your back-end systems, right? Tie these pieces together, and then you have your decisioning. This is where the decisioning engine kind of comes in to say, what is priority? What does the customer see? What is the communication that the customer will see? And then also you need to be able to then serve the right content that allows the customer to feel like you understand them. That is the thinking. So just putting this into practice, all right. This was probably just applying this in a very, very high level example, right? Where you have the marketing objectives. You kind of have to understand, you have to set your marketing objectives. What are you trying to do at a marketing level? For instance, are you prospecting? Are you trying to activate stuff from your current base? Is it awareness? Is it an acquisition play? Is it converters? Are you basically trying to suppress the people that are converting? Depending on the behavior, the user will then fall into different types of buckets, right? Relative to obviously your business objectives. And if they obviously, when they fall into this, your segmentation strategy or how you've segmented them then comes into play at this level, right? And then your business, you then make the decision on how you engage that customer. Do you upsell them? Do you just give them information? And obviously, if you know enough about them, you would be able to make the right decision at this level on what you're doing next, what your next step is. And then if the user takes the offer, you move them into an audience bucket, in a different audience bucket. So for instance, if you brought them in, you acquired them, and then at this point they take up whatever you're offering them, whatever you're selling, because that's what we do as marketers, we sell stuff, right? Then they obviously, you've sold, you've backed them, so then they move into a different category or into a different bucket where you then start to do you can do other initiatives as well. So after you've done your customer for life strategy, you need to then be able to measure, right? Which brings me to my next point, which is essentially the measurement framework and how this maps into business. So for most organizations, especially in this day and age, the biggest challenge is that they do not know how to operationalize their digital data. That is the honest truth. So you can put a report in front of them, but then the next question you'll be asked is, so what? Like, what does this mean to me? What does it mean in my world? So the key in bridging that gap is basically being able to measure your metrics. So what you see in green here, these are your digital metrics, key digital metrics. I mean, you can Google this, so you'll find this out. But essentially what you then try to do as part of your measurement framework is then map this digital metrics to actual KPIs within the business, right? To say, what does revenue mean? Like, if I'm looking at a revenue number inside my digital data, what does it mean? What pillar does it actually map into? So revenue, transactions, revenue by category, it kind of looks at the growth per revenue kind of KPI from a business perspective. New registrations, it means that I'm growing my customer base. And what this rolls up into is into the sales and growth pillar at a business objective level. Same thing with brand building. These are the metrics that fall underneath. These are some of the KPIs that are part of that, which is basically gaining new customers, increasing reach and visibility. So you've got lead measures. So the type of stuff that you gather on your digital properties. And you've got lag measures. These are the things that in the long term for an organization, this is what it will contribute towards the organization. So this is what a measurement framework, but it's very, very critical and very, very important that this just can't happen magically. There's a whole bunch of strategies that go beneath this. Underneath this is the audience segmentation strategy. how are you bucketing your audiences? How are you understanding your audiences? How are you categorizing these audiences? The second one is obviously your behavioral analytics, which you saw, which is then captured as part of, you know, that setup that I showed you. And you also need a customer for life strategy. How are you rewarding customers as they go through the journey and engage with you as a brand, as they mature, as they become more loyal to you? How are you rewarding them? And critical as well is then a data strategy. You need a very, very deliberate data strategy. How are all the pieces of your data going to fit together and basically drive the value that you need? So one more slide. I think I'm on cue. The last one, obviously, this is a formula. I know you can Google return on investment formula and you get a billion of them, right? But as I started in my in my initial tagline, what I did talk about is driving business value, right? How do you drive business value using marketing analytics? So everything, after you've done everything that I've presented so far, you need to be able to drive to show the business value of your marketing efforts. So basically, this is a simple formula that I found. Wink. I didn't create this. But essentially, I thought it was very, very useful in mapping to the thinking to say, what is the business value? So obviously it's money saved, money made, risk reduced, because we exist in we are within business and business has to analyze risks. Opportunities captured. So opportunities, what are the opportunities that we manage to capture as part of our initiatives? And then you subtract the cost of the sum total of your projects. This is a very, very simplified formula, but at a very, very high level, it then gives you an opportunity to start understanding and showing business value. And that's me.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So will you stop sharing? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what we'll do now is, okay, let's just.
Sorry, I'm just.
That's cool.
I'm just trying to, okay, stop sharing. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. You're back.
Yeah.
That was insightful, and really puts a, you know, it's almost like we're putting a lens on analytics and the practice behind it. I guess the one thing that you know, a lot of the people that are watching this is like asking themselves is, you know, how do I start? How do I become this marketer of the future, where I need to understand marketing analytics? And, you know, and my background wasn't that. I just wanted to do the 4 Ps, you know, price, promotion, place, and stuff, you know. And then now I must understand marketing analytics and digital and measurements and all that stuff. How does one start?
Okay, so look, I always tell people that before you even know, before you even start jumping into analytics as a practice, you need to be very, very passionate about business and driving value for customers. That is the starting point. Above all else, the academic stuff you can do anytime, right? So once you've gotten that bedded down and you know, at the core, you're like, okay, I want to be able to drive value. For me personally, value excites me. The moment I can show value for what I'm doing, something that is basically a pipe dream in most instances, or appearing to be a pipe dream, I get excited. So that is for me a good starting point. Next, you want to be able to look at, you know, things that you can do for free, like courses that you can do for free. You know, at the moment, obviously, like for instance, for Standard Bank, we've got a digital literacy program, which basically teaches you about a bunch of other stuff, like just general digital literacy. It's for free. You just register, you sign up. That is one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is, obviously, you can then do Google courses, right? You can do Google Analytics for free. Just register. As long as you've got a Gmail account, you can do all that stuff. And then Google Analytics kind of is quite good in the sense that it allows you to connect the dots between business and the actual tech. So it hides the tech layer quite well. So it's a good starting point for that. And another thing, another gem that I have found is an app called Primer, right? It's a Google product. Yes, it's actually
What's
called
called?
Google Primer. Google Primer.
So is it Primer? Is
That's
that right?
correct. Yes, it's
Okay.
Google Primer. It's available for both iOS and Android.
Okay.
Very, 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 very good in basically helping you understand business and unpacking business in terms of coming up with analytic strategies
Oh,
for
nice.
your business. So it's very, very good, very interactive, very playful, but the concepts are very digestible, and you can choose your streams on there as well. In terms of what you can, what stream you want to follow. It's a very, very good base, especially if you want to go into the world of analytics.
Okay, that's
Cool.
great. So everyone, right now we've opened up the Q&A session. So we are taking questions from everyone in the webinar. So don't be afraid. There's no question that's too insignificant or all that stuff. So we're going to start with some of the questions that have been asked. So I'm going to just go into the Q&A bar and I'm seeing questions as they come in.
Yeah.
So the first one here we have, it's from Teboho Polile, and the question is, how can you apply these on your social media strategy? So I guess it's more on what you were presenting.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, cool. That's interesting. So social media strategy, it really depends what it is that you're trying to do, right? So if you are trying to just understand activities on social, obviously each social tool has got its own it's got its own data, right? It's got its own data that it actually captures on a platform. So if you want to then tie this into like your broader strategy, this is where your data strategy kind of comes in. You need to understand, where does your social data fit into the broader landscape? That is one way of using it within your social strategy perspective. You can use it at a data level. However, you can then also use social media as a channel. So what you then do is, depending on what your social media is meant for, if it's there to drive people to your own channels, because these are rented channels, you know what I mean? So if you want to drive people to your own channels, which is great because then you control the ecosystem. Then part of how it integrates into your social media strategy is then you then have to be able to track when you drive people from your social media or from your organic posts, from your paid posts. You need to be able to track them as you basically need to be able to link track the links that drive them from those specific social media posts to your own channels. So that's two ways you can do it at a social media level.
Okay, cool.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so that's the one. And then the second question comes from Katleho Kondlo. And the question is, what is your view on digital agencies? And then the question was internal or external?
So my view on digital agencies is partnerships. So as long as there's a good synergy between a digital agency, we within Standard Bank work with agencies as well. The key is they bring certain specialized skill sets that you might not necessarily have within your own organization, right? So whether you set up an agency internal, like certain brands that have done it, or they're external, the idea is just synergies and being able to respect each other's specialities. So my view is, as long as the relationship is based on partnership and mutual understanding of the value that you're trying to drive, then it's easy. That's pretty much what it is. Your focus should always be on the value. So my view will always be, if you're there for the value, then we work. You know what I mean? That's the thinking from an agency perspective. Cool.
All right, that's
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then the next one here I've got from Wallace. So Wallace works with me at South Point. Hi, Wallace. So he's saying, hey, Munya, what digital tools have been of value to you, e.g. listening tools and integration tools?
Okay, so I won't speak to listening tools because then I'm divulging enterprise secrets. But look, the tools. I always like to think of myself as a tools agnostic person, right? For me, it's whatever the tool can do. If it maps into your strategy on the value that you're trying to drive, then adopt that tool. Right, and if obviously the organization accepts it, then adopt it. I'm neither here nor there in terms of what tools can do. Every tool has got its strengths. Some of them they've got their weaknesses. But the key is, does the tool map in you unlocking the value from your strategy? Does it do that for the organization? That is basically your criteria. It can be Google Analytics, for instance, from a tracking perspective. Or it can be Adobe Analytics, or it can be something else. It really doesn't matter. Is the tool fitting or driving the value that you want from an organizational perspective?
Okay. All right, cool. Got you.
Yeah.
And then there was one from Ulane where I think I got it via email, and then she wanted to ask, how do you get consumer insights through the kind of like the different channels? Like, what's the best way to get consumer insights?
So look, with consumer insights, you can use different types of tools. I know I just mentioned you don't use tools, but if you don't have the luxury of having like a research or marketing research sort of internal arm in your organization, you can use various tools that are available. So one of the key tools is probably Brandwatch. You can use like Brandwatch to understand consumer insights and stuff like that. They work very much within the digital space. And you can then start to think of it in that way. Also, with what I said with the social media strategy, it has to map obviously with your strategy. What are you trying to get out of that tool? Right? How is it contributing towards not just your marketing strategy? How is it contributing towards your overall sort of consumer understanding and overall consumer strategy and your customer strategy?
Okay. All right. Yeah, so she made a comment here. She said, just for clarity, cost-effective way to get insights.
Yes. So I mean, think about it in this way, right? You get a cheapest, and I'll put cheapest in quotes, relative to what you're trying to do, right? You can hire somebody who can go into the market and interview 10,000 people, right? Or you can get a tool that can get insights from 1 million data points. Cost effective, right? And that tool costs $1 million, whereas paying somebody a salary costs you maybe 10,000. So you kind of need to understand what is that return on your investment. And from a cost effectiveness, you also need scale, right? So it has to be cost effective and it has to scale, and there has to be scale there so that you can work on that quite effectively. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then there was, I guess the last one was more follow up from Katleho. She said, or he would you recommend specialization within the digital discipline, i.e. SOME, analytics, etc.? I don't know what SOME is.
I also don't know what SOM means. I'm thinking maybe it means so me. So maybe like so me, I'm gonna be awesome. So look, would I recommend specialization within digital discipline? Definitely. That is where the world is going. I would recommend specialization, but also, if you're already in a generic space, it also gives you an opportunity to understand. It sets you up, like it makes you understand like the broader world, right? And when you specialize, you specialize. So like for me, I worked for a big advertising agencies. There was above the line, below the line. There was digital, there was what. I was exposed to all those worlds, but then I specialized in digital, which then opened up my mind into the art of the possible, because you're engaging with different types of stakeholders. So specialization, definitely, there's a market. I mean, I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, if you would search for digital analytics, 3 years ago, 2017, you wouldn't, that same search today, you probably hit like 200 jobs that are already there for digital analytics. There's a huge demand, and the demand is not being met.
Sure.
And then
Okay.
any suggest, I see the next question. I think we just have a minute. Any books worth suggesting? There's a really good book I read. I'll just tell you what it is. I just forgot. I don't want to give you the wrong title, but it's something called the Lean Product Handbook. How to innovate with minimum viable products and rapid customer feedback. And it's by Dan Olson. It's a very, very good book because it ties marketing into the value chain of building products. So regardless of what you're in. So it's very, very good book, very interesting read. And there's also a bunch of collateral that he also gives links to that you can use on the site. I've used this book to actually build some strategy. Well, not some strategies, but some tactics, in a lot of the work that I've done, not just with Standard Bank, but with other clients as well.
Sure. Okay, awesome. All right, so I think that's it. We're now at 16 minutes past 9, so we're just a minute over. So thank you everyone that joined us. Wait, so there's one question from Tatiana. The thing she said, from a structural perspective, do you sit with the marketing team?
By sit physically, maybe not, because it's virtual, but I think I am part of the marketing structure, but I also engage directly with business. So there's an arm of my work that engages heavily with business. So inside that's why I was touching a lot on the synergy. And it's not just also for Standard Bank. For you to unlock value, you need to be able to do it as a collective within an organization.
All right, cool. Okay, cool, guys. So I'm going to leave it at that. So what I'll do is, so Tatiana, I know you've got a few more questions, so we'll take that offline and we'll link you up with Munya. And then I think with everyone else that still has questions, you can send me on email and I'll definitely share them with Munya, and then we'll definitely answer all the questions that everybody has. Thank you everyone for joining us. Munya, thank you so much for sharing that insight. So you
Thanks
said
for the opportunity. I'm famous now.
No.
I've presented on Marketing Fridays.
This is a strong community. People who come here, it's only the best.
100%. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been amazing.
Cool.
Awesome. Look forward to hearing from a lot of you.
Cool. So I'll make sure that everybody links up, and then I'll share the deck immediately after this and the recording. And thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you, guys, on Facebook. We love you also there. Cheers. All right, cool.
Cheers. Bye.
All right, bye. Cool. I'm just gonna leave that. Okay.